And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's stories, ladies and gentlemen. I messed up big time, but I guess regret is always too late. I did something so despicable. I'm ashamed of myself right now. I don't know how I got here. I have ruined my life with my own hands. I never knew my life would ever turn out this way. I slept with a debt collector to clear our debts. Don't judge me, guys. I didn't know what I was doing. I was desperate and naive. Hi guys, my name is Elizabeth. I'm a 26-year-old sales rep and I live in Florida. The name of my husband is Alex. He is 30 years old. Alex is a high school teacher. Alex and I have been married for 2 years now. Alex and I met 5 years ago, and ever since then, we have been inseparable. It was love at first sight. Alex is a perfect gentleman. He is every woman's dream man. Alex has been my best friend for the past 5 years now. He told me the first day he saw me that he was going to marry, and fast forward to 5 years later. We are married, but I ruined everything by sleeping with a debt collector to clear our debt. It all started 2 years ago, immediately after our wedding. Alex took a loan from a debt collector for our wedding, and immediately after the wedding, 3 months after our wedding, our lives became a total nightmare. I would like to refer to the debt collector as Mr. Robert. I wanted a big wedding, don't get me wrong. I have always fantasized about my wedding ever since I was a little girl. I wanted everything to be perfect, but unfortunately, Alex couldn't afford that because he was just an ordinary high school teacher. He told me he wanted a small and intimate wedding and that there was life after the wedding. I wished I listened to him, but I didn't. I was adamant about having a big wedding that Alex finally gave in to my demands. He went and took a loan with a huge interest rate from Mr. Robert, a loan shark. I encouraged him to take the loan and that we would pay back immediately after the wedding. I thought we could get all the money we spent on the wedding from the gifts people were going to give us. But I was wrong. We didn't even realize half of the money we spent on the wedding. It was after the wedding that I understood why Alex wanted a small wedding. Life became hard because we were in debt. We could barely eat a decent meal. All of Alex's salary went into paying debts. Alex and I started having issues immediately after our marriage. It was as if the Alex I dated for 5 years was different from the one I married. Frustration can change a man's true colors. Every day, the debt collector Robert would come and disgrace us, asking for his money. I got tired of the daily embarrassment that I wanted to run away at some point. Don't judge me, guys. I love Alex so much. That was why I married him, even though he wasn't financially buoyant. But after the wedding, everything changed instantly. I don't know if it was because we were in debt or something else. Alex became distant from me. We were no longer gisting like we used to. No more date nights. We were just like roommates living together. He barely talked to me. He is always moody and lost in thought. He became a shadow of himself. I felt bad for him. I blamed myself for everything. I wanted to fix everything so bad. One day I decided to go see Robert the debt collector so I could fix everything. I wanted to know if there was a way out. Mr. Robert is a very wealthy man. He has all the money you could think of. He got his wealth from ripping people off. His loan interest rates were outrageous. So I went to meet to see if I could beg him to have pity on Alex and I. I regret going to Mr. Robert's office on that fateful day. That was one stupid decision I would forever regret. I begged Mr. Robert to please assist us and cut his interest rate as we recently just got married, and Alex is just a high school teacher. After listening to my pleading, Mr. Robert told me he would not only reduce the interest rate, he would clear the debts, but on one condition. Guys, nothing prepared me for what came out of his mouth. Mr. Robert asked me to sleep with him so he would clear out our debt. I was shocked and too stunned to speak. I stormed out of his office furious. Why would he even think of such a thing in the first place? Didn't he know I was a married woman? I was so disappointed in him that I lost the little respect I had left for him. After my visit to Mr. Robert, things became even harder. Mr. Robert would go to Alex's place of work to embarrass him every day. It got so bad that the school authority threatened to sack him if he didn't sort out his mess. Alex became a frustrated man. I couldn't just stand and watch Alex suffer any longer. I called Mr. Robert and told him I had accepted his offer. That was it, guys. I slept with Mr. Robert to clear our debt. I didn't do it out of pleasure. I was desperate. I wanted to save my marriage. I wanted to save Alex from the daily embarrassment. I wanted my Alex back, the Alex I fell in love with 5 years ago. I thought clearing our debt would bring back peace and love to my home, but I was wrong. My whole life crumbled after my affair with Mr. Robert. I regretted my actions immediately. I couldn't believe I broke my marriage vows by sleeping with another man. I couldn't believe I betrayed Alex's trust by sleeping with a man he despised most in his life, the very man that has embarrassed him on so many occasions. I was filled with guilt. I couldn't even look Alex in the face anymore. I wanted to confess everything to Alex, but I was scared of what his reaction would be. I knew he might not forgive me for sleeping with Mr. Robert, our debt collector. Alex is a good man. He doesn't deserve everything that I have done to him so far. It was my greedy desire for a big wedding that caused this mess in the first place. We wouldn't be here if I had listened to Alex and had a small and intimate wedding. I blamed myself for everything. I couldn't even forgive myself. I wanted to confess to Alex, but I decided to forget everything after seeing how happy he was when I told him my parents had cleared our debt. He was so happy that he knelt down and apologized for how he has treated me ever since we got married. He told me he was under a lot of pressure and promised to change. He also promised he would pay my parents back, but I told he shouldn't bother about that, but he insisted. Alex became a changed person. Slowly, I started seeing his smile again. My Alex was coming back gradually, but I was losing myself every day. I couldn't bring myself to forget about everything that happened on that fateful day. I was full of regret. I started withdrawing myself from Alex because I didn't want to notice I was hiding anything. Alex knows me too well, and it's very easy for him to notice when something is bothering me. In fact, I can't even hide anything from Alex. Alex noticed my sudden change of attitude and asked me what was wrong. He told me he noticed I haven't been myself ever since our debt was cleared by my parents. I knew there was no way I could fool Alex. He was too smart for that. So I had to come up with something as quickly as possible. I told him nothing was wrong with me and that I was just sad about everything, that I regret not listening to him about having a small wedding. He told me all that is the past now and that we should forget everything and forge ahead. I decided to move on and just forget about everything. It was hard, but I didn't have a choice. I didn't want to lose Alex. He was my soulmate. Telling him the truth would mean losing him forever, and I wasn't ready for that. I started pretending to be happy. Things were beginning to go back to normal again until I got a call from Mr. Robert. One day, while I was sitting in the garden enjoying the cool, natural, fresh air, I got a call from Mr. Robert. He asked me to come to his office and see him. The call instantly changed my mood. I blocked his line immediately, and he used another number to call me. He told me I would regret everything if I didn't come to see him. I knew how heartless Mr. Robert could be, so immediately rushed to his office. I thought he had something important to tell me, but I was shocked when he wanted to have his way with me again. I refused and told him that wasn't our agreement. To my greatest surprise, he told me he had videos and pictures he took from our last encounter. He threatened to expose me if I didn't give in to his demands. I got scared. I couldn't believe I got played by Mr. Robert. I always knew him as a cunning man, but I didn't know he could stoop so low. At that point, I had two options. I either confess everything to Alex or sleep with Mr. Robert again. Unfortunately, I chose the latter. I decided to sleep with Mr. Robert again in order to save my marriage. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I felt that was the only way I could save my marriage. Mr. Robert kept blackmailing me and having his way with me every time he desired. I became a shadow of myself. I was losing weight every day. Alex kept asking me what was wrong, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. He was worried because I was lost in thought. He knew I was hiding something from him, but he couldn't place it. He kept asking me if I was hiding anything from him, but I told him no. Every day he would wake me up from sleep before he goes to work and ask if there's anything I want to tell me. He told me I shouldn't hide anything from him and that I should feel free and discuss whatsoever is bordering me with him. But I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. One day, Alex called me while at work that I shouldn't prepare any food that we would be having for dinner at our favorite restaurant. I was excited. This was the first time we would be having dinner after our wedding. I got dressed and rushed to the restaurant. I was already seated when Alex walked in. I fell in love all over again. This was the man I fell in love with. How did I ever bring myself to cheat on him? Why didn't I just tell him the truth from the beginning? Why did I even go and visit Mr. Robert alone on that fateful day? All these and more were the thoughts running through my head. I was so lost in thought that I didn't even when Alex sat down. He had to pat my shoulder to bring me to my senses. He told me he brought me out here because he noticed I have been stressed out lately, and he wanted to ask for my forgiveness for how he has acted all these while. He told me he acted out of character and that I should please forgive him. I asked him to stop apologizing and that I have already forgotten about everything. He gave me a rose banquet. He held my hands while looking straight into my eyes. He asked me if there's anything I have done and I'm not proud of. Guys, at that moment, I almost died. I thought that was the end for me. He told me to feel free and confide in him, and that I shouldn't keep anything away from him. He said he would try to understand and not judge me. That was my chance to confess everything to Alex, but instead, I got defensive. I pretended to be angry and asked him why he was trying to manipulate me. I wish I took the chance and confessed. Maybe he would have forgiven me. But I wasn't bold enough to do that. I was so scared, I cowardly turned everything against him. I asked him if there was something he had done that I should know, and he said no. I felt bad for Alex, but there was nothing I could do. Here I was accusing him for my own crimes. We ate our dinner in silence and went home. The silent treatment continued till the following day. Something told me Alex already knew the truth and that he was looking for the right opportunity to nap me. I continued seeing Mr. Robert secretly because I didn't want him exposing me to Alex and also leaking my nude. Everything was going smoothly until one day. Alex caught me, guys. Alex saw me coming out of Mr. Robert's office. He asked me why I was coming from Mr. Robert's office. At that moment, I wanted the ground to open so I could just disappear. I lied to him that I just went to check up on him. Guys, the lie didn't make sense. Why would I go check up on the man that has been embarrassing me and my husband? But at that moment, my brain was blank. I couldn't come up with any meaningful things to say. Alex gave me a disdainful look. He asked me how long I was willing to continue my lies. I pretended like I didn't what he was saying. He told me to stop the act that he knows everything. He told me he started suspecting something was wrong somewhere the moment he called my parents to thank them for clearing our loan, and they told him they didn't clear out any loan. He told me how he started snooping through my phone and found out I have been in contact with Mr. Robert. But he still didn't have any proof. He told how he finally found out the truth. It was Mr. Robert P.A. that called him and revealed everything to him. Apparently, she has a crush on Alex. That was why she decided to sell me out like. But truth be told, it is wrong of me to expect loyalty from a total stranger. What was I thinking? Alex was so furious with me. He was so mad I could see his veins while he was shouting. I tried to explain everything to him, but he refused to listen. Alex made a scene outside Mr. Robert's office. Mr. Robert locked his office and refused to come out. I was so ashamed of myself. I wanted to just disappear. Everything still feels surreal. Narrating everything is making me tear up all over again. How could Alex be so insensitive? Why would he embarrass me outside? I know what I did was wrong, but he didn't have the right to embarrass me that way. He is the reason I'm in this mess in the first place. I was just trying to save him from the everyday embarrassment. That was how I landed in this mess. I was angry at Alex. Why didn't he confront me after learning the truth? Why didn't he choose to keep silent, allowing me to make a fool of myself? I bet he enjoyed watching me make a fool of myself. Alex left me there and left. I decided to run after him, but my tiny, shaky legs couldn't meet up with him. I arrived home and was expecting to see Alex at home so I could apologize properly. But to my greatest surprise, Alex wasn't at home. I stayed up all night waiting for Alex, that I didn't even have time to think about everything that has happened. I was worried because Alex doesn't keep late nights and hasn't stayed out that late before. Worst of all, his phone was switched off. I was so caught up with everything that I didn't know when I dozed off. I was woken up by the doorbell at 4 a.m. I checked and saw Alex. I quickly opened the door. I was surprised to see him drunk. Alex doesn't drink. If for anything, he hates the smell of alcohol. He was furious to see me. He asked me what I was doing in his house. I told him it was my house too. He asked me to get out of his house. I thought he was just drunk and he would calm down later when he was more sober and we would be able to discuss everything. But I was wrong. He woke up around 12 p.m. and the first thing he did was throw my belongings out one after the other. I begged him to please listen to me, but he refused. All my pleas went on deaf ears. He told me he was done and that the marriage was over. He told me how I ruined his life by pushing him to go get a loan because I wanted a big wedding. He told me he regretted the day he got married to me, and even the day he set his eyes on me. He called me a lot of derogatory names. The more I begged him, the angrier he became. He asked me to leave and never step foot in his house again. I decided to leave when I saw how furious Alex was. I couldn't even believe the man standing before me was Alex. I was shocked at his behavior. I decided to go stay at my parents' house for some time so I could give some time to calm down. I left for my parents' place with few of my belongings. My parents were surprised to see they couldn't believe their eyes. I couldn't tell them everything that had happened, so I lied to them. Alex and I were just having a little misunderstanding and I needed a place to clear out my head. That was why I came back. While at my parents' place, I got the biggest shock of my life when I got divorce papers from Alex. My parents were shocked too. It was at that point I opened up to them. I told everything that had happened. They were very disappointed in me. They told me how shameless I was by stopping low to sleep a debt collector just to clear our loan. My parents took turns to call me names. They reminded me how they warned me not to get married to Alex in the first place, but I was blinded by love. My parents never liked Alex because they always believed he wasn't capable of taking care of me. They finally allowed me to marry him when they saw how much I love him and how happy he made me. The following day, my parents followed me to Alex's place so they could explain everything to him, but Alex paid deaf ears to them. He insulted them and chased us out of his house like common criminals. My parents were embarrassed. I was sad on their behalf. I never imagined in a million years that Alex would treat my parents that way. I became angry and started hating Alex. I know I made a mistake, but why is he not listening to me? He should at least listen to the reason why I did what I did in the first place. I did everything for him. I couldn't bear to see him getting embarrassed everywhere. That's why I let go of my honor and slept with Mr. Robert. Why is he not seeing the sacrifice I made for us to be free from debt? The more I try to hate him, the more I feel sad for him. He told me if I truly loved as I claimed, I would sign the divorce papers. Update. Hi guys, so I signed the divorce papers after I saw how adamant Alex was. I got tired of begging him, so I just did what he wanted. It wasn't easy for me because I couldn't imagine my life without him. I have known him for 5 solid years. He was my best friend and everything. We always moved together. Things only changed after our wedding. I couldn't forgive myself no matter how hard I tried. I knew I would never find any man as good and kind as Alex ever again. Alex made sure he was always there for me. Emotionally, he was my rock. Financially, he always provided. Even though he was just average, he made sure I never lacked anything. He could let go of his last dollar for me. After signing the divorce papers, soon our divorce proceedings started. It was hectic. It was emotionally draining for me. All efforts for reconciliation proved futile. Alex hated me, and I could see from the way he looked at me. Soon the divorce proceedings were over, and we finally got divorced. That was the saddest day of my life. I felt empty and lost. I became depressed. I always blamed myself for my failed marriage. I cried to bed every night. I kept wishing I never insisted on a big wedding in the first place. I was just naive. I wanted to prove to everyone that I was marrying a rich man. My selfish desire ruined my marriage before it began in the first place. I lost a good man, guys. My selfishness made me lose Alex. As for Mr. Robert, I later learned he never had any videos or pictures. He just used that to trap me into doing his biddings. I can't believe I even fell for such stupid trick in the first place. I don't know why I didn't even ask him to show me the video and pictures in the first place. I guess I was too scared to think straight. The cunning man took advantage of my naiveness. I don't even blame him. I blamed myself for going to his place in the first place and for allowing myself to be manipulated by him. It was my love for Alex that pushed me to accept Mr. Robert's ridiculous demands in the first place. If I could turn back the hands of time, I would have done things differently. But it's too late now. I take full accountability of everything that happened. I decided to stop wallowing in self-pity. I'm still trying to get used to the fact that Alex and I are no longer together again. Slowly, I'm beginning to smile again. I quit my job as a sales rep and joined my parents in our retail store. I'm picking up my life again. I wish Alex would one day forgive me for the pain I have caused him. I hope he genuinely finds happiness. I hope he one day understands why I did what I did. I wish him well. That's my story, guys. I hope everyone learns from my story. Cut your coat according to sizes and don't try to live above your means. Don't have a big wedding if you can't afford it. Don't have a big wedding because you want to prove a point to people, and most importantly, don't cheat on your spouse. Thanks and goodbye.